Picture this. You're at your job. You get a little upset. Do you write a strongly worded email? Maybe complain by the water cooler to Brenda from accounting? No, that's for normal people. If you are NFL superstar Antonio Brown, you choose a slightly different path for your resignation. You rip off your uniform, right there, in front of tens of thousands of screaming fans. You throw your heavily padded, very expensive gear directly into the crowd. And then you literally jog out of the stadium, completely shirtless, while the actual professional football game is still actively happening behind you. It was January 2022. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were playing the New York Jets, a standard Sunday afternoon game that suddenly turned into a bizarre piece of performance art. Fans in the stands were completely speechless. Millions watching at home dropped their snacks. Even his own teammates and coaches looked like they had just seen a ghost. It was the ultimate rage quit, the kind of exit you only dream about on a bad Monday. But how does a multi-million-dollar athlete reach this spectacular boiling point? Was it a calculated diva move or a massive public mental breakdown? Today, we are down the day a superstar decided to just walk away. To truly understand this majestic meltdown, we need to rewind a bit. We need to look at the man behind the missing jersey. Antonio Brown wasn't just another guy on the roster. He was a phenom. Drafted in 2010 by the Pittsburgh Steelers, he quickly became one of the greatest wide receivers of his generation. For years, his route running was practically a form of dark magic. He was putting up numbers that sounded like video game stats. We're talking multiple Pro Bowls, All-Pro selections, and eventually a Super Bowl ring. He was swimming in millions of dollars, endorsements, and adoring fans. He had the kind of career most athletes would sell their soul for. But greatness in sports often comes with a side of extreme unpredictability. Off the field, the headlines started changing from his athletic feats to his bizarre behavior. There were team disputes, frozen feet from cryotherapy, and helmet controversies. He bounced from the Steelers to the Raiders to the Patriots in record time. By the time he landed with Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, he was seen as a high-risk, high-reward wild card. The talent was undeniable, but the tension was always bubbling right beneath the surface. Which brings us to that fateful Sunday at MetLife Stadium. It was the third quarter. The defending champions, the Buccaneers, were surprisingly struggling against the heavily underdog Jets. On the sideline, Antonio Brown was visibly frustrated. The vibes were undeniably bad. Words were exchanged. According to reports, head coach Bruce Arians told him to get into the game, but Brown refused. Twice. He just sat there. Brown later claimed his ankle was too injured to play, and the team was forcing him. Others speculated he was actually furious about not getting enough passes to hit his million-dollar contract bonuses. Whatever the real reason, the coach had enough. He allegedly pointed his finger at Brown and yelled, "You're done," or something very similar, with a few more colorful expletives. For a normal player, this means you grab some Gatorade, sit on the bench, and pout. But for Antonio Brown, this was the spark that ignited the powder keg. And then came the snap. Not the football snap, the mental one. Brown stood up. The game continuing behind him no longer mattered. A teammate, receiver Mike Evans, desperately tried to calm him down and de-escalate the situation. But reason had officially left the building. He wasn't just done for the day, he was done with the whole show. First, he grabs the bottom of his jersey and pulls it right over his head. He tosses the black and red fabric onto the sideline like laundry he refuses to fold. But he wasn't finished. Next came the heavy shoulder pads. Those get unbuckled and tossed aside. At this point, people are thinking, okay, he's just changing his gear, right? Wrong. Standing there in just his black undershirt, he makes the executive decision that the undershirt has to go too. He rips it off and tosses it directly into the stands. Some lucky, or incredibly unlucky, fan just caught a very sweaty souvenir. He then looks at his football gloves, the tools of his trade. He peels them off one by one, walking towards the end zone, and tosses them into the crowd like he's a beautiful bride throwing a bouquet at a wedding. So here we are, a multi-million-dollar superstar standing completely shirtless on an NFL sideline, in the middle of an active, highly competitive game. Does he look embarrassed? Does he quietly slip away into the shadows? Absolutely not. He starts hyping up the crowd, waving his arms to get them cheering for the most confusing exit in sports history. And then, for his grand finale, he turns to the end zone crowd, throws up a peace sign, and gives a little nod. He turns his back and jogs into the dark tunnel, disappearing from the field, the game, and his team. It was the ultimate, most dramatic "I quit" text ever sent, delivered entirely in person and completely shirtless. While the Buccaneers were still actively trying to win a football game, Brown was reportedly outside the stadium securing a ride. Just imagine being a rideshare driver pulling up to MetLife Stadium and your passenger is a freezing, shirtless NFL superstar. He literally left the premises before the game clock even hit 0. He was just gone. After the game finally ended, the press conference was exactly as tense and awkward as you would expect. Head coach Bruce Arians stepped up to the microphone, looking absolutely exhausted by the whole ordeal. When asked about the incident, he stated very simply, he is no longer a Buck. And just like that, it was over. Meanwhile, the internet, predictably, lost its collective mind. The footage was everywhere within minutes. The clip went instantly viral. Memes were being produced and shared faster than the speed of light. People were adding sad violin music to the video, photoshopping him into movies. It was a content creator's dream. But the financial reality of that little jog was far less funny. That dramatic exit cost him a fortune. In performance bonuses alone, he walked away from roughly $1 million. Just threw it right into the trash. His guaranteed contract? Vaporized. His NFL legacy? Suddenly very complicated. The fallout was just beginning. Tom Brady, the man who heavily championed bringing Brown to Tampa, had a very different tone. While the internet was busy memeing the situation to death, the legendary quarterback took the high road. In his post-game interview, Brady asked for empathy, saying everyone should be compassionate toward whatever Brown was going through. It was a very human response in a sports industry that usually operates like a ruthless, unfeeling machine. But if people expected Antonio Brown to retreat quietly and reflect on his actions, they were very wrong. Instead of laying low, he embarked on what can only be described as a chaotic, unhinged media tour. He popped up on podcasts, hung out with celebrities, and even dropped a rap song because, sure, why not? Simultaneously, a fierce, highly public relations war erupted between his camp and the Buccaneers. His lawyers released aggressive statements, claiming he was forced to play on a severely injured ankle that required surgery. They threatened legal action, painting a picture of a brave player betrayed by a heartless organization. The Buccaneers fired back immediately, stating he never indicated he was hurt and that his sideline behavior was purely about not getting the ball. It became a massive he said, team said circus, playing out live on national television and Twitter threads. And just like the story, the sports world was completely divided into two very vocal camps. Camp A saw a selfish diva who abandoned his brothers on the field just because things weren't going his way. But Camp B saw something much darker, a massive, flashing warning sign that the system was breaking its stars. But once the laughter stopped and the memes faded, a serious question emerged. When a multi-million-dollar athlete walks away from everything mid-shift, it's rarely just about the game. Was this just the ultimate diva acting out? Football has a long history of wide receivers with massive egos. Was he simply a disgruntled employee, furious that he wasn't being fed the ball to hit his contract bonus? Or was it something physical? Fans immediately pointed back to a notoriously brutal hit to the head he took years earlier. The dark shadow of brain trauma and CTE is a conversation the NFL can never quite escape. The NFL is famously a next man up league. Players are highly compensated, but ultimately replaceable gears in a machine. Did Brown simply decide he was done being a gear and threw himself into the machine as a wrench? However, critics are quick to point out that mental distress doesn't excuse a total lack of professional accountability. Millions of people hate their bosses. They don't generally strip down and jog out of the office during a presentation. And we have to look at the teams. Teams kept signing him, happily ignoring glaring red flags as long as he scored touchdowns. Sports psychologists debated it endlessly. Was this a tragic mental breakdown or a rebellious breakthrough? The uncomfortable reality is that human behavior is messy. It was likely a chaotic cocktail of all these factors. But modern sports media doesn't do messy. We want heroes, villains, and easily digestible entertainment. And on that Sunday, Antonio Brown delivered the most unforgettable, albeit tragic, entertainment of the year. When the stadium lights finally turned off that day, the NFL was left trying to process the sudden loss of a generational talent. It's a stark reminder that pure, unfiltered talent can blast to the top of the world. But without stability and support, gravity eventually catches up with you. Hard. Whatever the real reason behind the meltdown, Antonio Brown's exit is permanently etched in sports lore. It will forever be known as the most dramatic, bizarre, and memeable resignation ever televised. The day a superstar decided that he was simply done playing by the rules. And instead of fading away quietly, he just changed the channel. So, what do you think? Was this the breaking point of a flawed system, or just a diva taking his ball and going home? Drop your theories in the comments below. We read all of them. If you enjoyed this breakdown, do us a huge favor and hit that like button. It really helps the channel out. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss our next animated deep dive. A massive thank you to our Patreon supporters for keeping the animation flowing. You guys are the real MVPs. Click on the screen right now to watch another video just like this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.